Network.
Hello, Mark Angelo Capola here with another edition of Valhalla's Superhero I'm going to start that over. Just because I got some ringing in my ears right now. Okay. Hello, Mark Angelo Capola here with another edition of Valhalla's Superhero Academy podcast. And today, as always, we have a super awesome guest. But before we get to that guest, as you guys know, if you listen to this podcast, we are going to talk about one of our sponsors. And today I want to talk about Superhero Academy, which is kind of not a sponsor because I'm the guy who's behind it and running it. But I do want to tell you about our new programs that we're running, which is basically all free to you. So Superhero Academy, we just launched a big belt system, okay? And I call it a belt system because it to me equates almost to being a like you're in martial arts. And in martial arts, to get to the black belt, you have to go through a series of different kind of trainings and programs and different belt levels to be able to become that master, to be that black belt. And so Superhero Academy is a online school for everyday superheroes. It's interactive. It's meant to be, a conversation between you and I. It's meant to have classes. It's meant to, we have masterminds. We have this big, bold program. It's over $100,000 a year with some of the, the bigger organizations or individuals that I'm working with. And now we're trying to do more and more of interactive online classes, webinars, with a free class every single month. That's right, guys. A free class every single month. So if you go to superheroacademy.net/commit, and the link will be in the description, superheroacademy.net/commit, you can sign up for our latest free class. Now, I don't know when this is coming out, so I don't know exactly which free class you're going to see, because I also don't know when you're going to be listening to this exactly either. But what I can tell you is that every time one free class is over, the next one is already in queue, and we're already going to be kind of signing people up for it. I can tell you that this is the first time I've ever done this. This is the first time I've ever launched an online webinar, and already, this free class coming up, later this week for me, there is already over 500 people who signed up to this class. I am shocked at how many of you guys are just loving this kind of stuff and slated to show up. I'm super excited to hear that you guys are down with this stuff, but I really, really, really hope that more of you also come. So invite your friends, let people know about this, superheroacademy.net/commit. Now, without further ado, we're going to dive into now somebody who I consider a really good friend, somebody who I met at Archangel Academy. Shout out to them, by the way. Earlier this year in California, a great kind of meeting of the minds, and I don't even want to call it a conference. It's really almost like a seminar of people who just came together, super awesome, heart-centered entrepreneurs, changing the world. And today we've got Justin, one of my really good friends, who runs ConsciousLifestyleMag.com. It's a magazine you can get on your phone. You can download on the iTunes store. Yeah, if you have an Android, it's there too. It's everywhere you need it to be. It's going to. It's honestly, for an online magazine, it blew my mind. I got the recent edition that came out, and I was so shocked and stunned at how amazing the pictures were, how really unique and different the content was, and just how awesome of information, how much it brought to my day. And even to the next couple of days, because it took me a little bit of time to get through it. It was just such rich content, and it's not okay, look, everyone says they have rich content, and there's these shitty blogs out there. This is not that. This is really awesome, conscious content. This is really the lifestyle kind of magazine that really is going to change your psyche, and it's just beautiful. So thank you so much for being on the podcast, Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It was so fun meeting you at Archangel. It was like a meeting of souls, it was like a long lost brother. We just hit it off and talked for hours and hours into the night, way too long, because we were both exhausted the next day. But yeah, it was awesome, and I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for the kudos, and I love what you're doing too, man. You're doing so much awesome stuff. You're really an inspiration.
I try. I mean, you know, I'm doing my thing, but I think what you're doing is really, really, really cool too, and I love that you've just got this awesome focus on this, and I know that on the side you also do coaching, right? You have this art of flow coaching that you help some people kind of create their own brands as well, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But tell me a little bit more about what Conscious Lifestyle Mag is, and tell me the story about this. Like, where did this come out of?
Yeah, happy to. It's an interesting story. So, I mean, I think the foundation of it was, you know, I have been on this journey of personal growth and transformation, and I just devour content. I just want to know why, I want to know how, I want to know the most powerful, deepest, most transformational stuff.
Totally guilty. Yeah, same
exactly. Here. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
And so I was coming across all these really profound teachers and systems and methods and techniques and spiritual principles and all this stuff, and it was like spread out like, you know, someone had a shotgun blast, right? There was like all these little awesome pieces all over the place, and no one had really brought them into one place, all the most powerful stuff, you know, just pulp, pure pulp.
And like really good curated content too, right? So it's like one thing to get like a small little piece of information, but then it was like a 500-word blog. Now all of a sudden it's done,
right.
But now you wanted to bring this together into a place that was like really solid too.
Like yeah, exactly.
Better, like a bigger, longer format kind of magazine almost.
Right. Because yeah, exactly. Like there was all these articles, you know, like 5 healthy superfoods to brighten your day, and you know, all this like really feel good stuff that was like super digestible and light, but it didn't really give you those deep shifts that we all really want, right? These life-changing, profound breakthroughs. So I started out in the online space before Conscious Lifestyle Magazine with another couple websites doing something similar, and then when me and my partner Megan got together and decided to do this, we were like, how can we really evolve this into something, you know, amazing that really is like this whole experience on every level, where when someone reads the magazine or comes into contact with a piece of our content somewhere, that they're transformed as they read it and come out a different person on the other side. And so for us, that was connecting with all the top guys in the world, all the top, you know, conscious minds, conscious thinkers, and not necessarily the most famous people, because yeah, a lot of them are really great, but there's so many people, yourself included, that have all these incredible ideas that were maybe not so on the mainstream radar we knew about. And so we just wanted to bring them all together and into one place, into this magazine that was just going to be this really powerful experience. And then, you know, as you were saying before, we combined it with a really like strong visual presence and design and a lot of transformative art and just things that moved us. So it wasn't just an experience of articles, like it was really this whole multi-sensory experience that delivered on a lot of different levels. And so I think, you know, that's how it came together. And then the vision for the magazine, really the driving force behind it, our inspiration is to really give people powerful, practical tools for transforming their everyday life. We want to give people not just these big philosophical concepts or ideas that are really cool, but you know, are kind of in the ethers. We wanted to really ground it so that you could take these deep ideas, these deep ways of looking at the world, and put them into practice in your life and get results, so you could have the level of health you want. You could have, you know, a life where you're living your passions and making an awesome living doing it, where you're, you know, feeling connected to the people in your life. I mean, literally in every area of your life, we try and give you something that can help you live like the ultimate conscious lifestyle, right?
Ultimate, and the conscious lifestyle also starts to become like the ultimate sought after and like badass lifestyle to some degree too, right? It's like you can live like, you can have like, if you're eating the best foods, if you're like kind of consuming some of the best content and learning from some of the best, and like you said, it's not always the most famous person, but sometimes it's just some of the people who have this really, really great information. You're seeing this and you're getting this delivered in beautiful art, kind of artistic way, and just something that just really resonates with you. It starts to transform you, right?
Yeah.
Because we become like, there's these, obviously we've heard this before, but it's like you become like the 5 most, you know, like the 5 people that you hang out with most. Well, guess what?
Right.
You also become the 5 like kind of articles or you know, the 5 news sources that you listen to most too.
That's
right?
very true.
think about it, right? Like, we never talk about that. We always talk about, oh, who are you hanging out with? Who do you associate yourself with? But how many times do we think about, like, where do you read this information? Where do you like kind of find inspiration? Where do you learn about the world? Where do you go out and explore in some way, shape, or form? And there's 1,001 different ways and places that we do that, whether it be literally out in the physical, whether it be on our phones at times, or whether it be on our laptops. But keeping that in mind, you should always find a way to make sure that you're also not ingesting so much garbage. Try and find ways where you can get some of these positive pieces of news, and that's what I loved about your magazine when I first got it. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. And you're totally right. Like, what you feed into your mind and body is going to influence everything about your life. And another thing too that you kind of mentioned is that, you know, that the magazine's really designed to help you live like the ultimate lifestyle, and no matter who you are. And that's another thing that we saw is, like, you had all these magazines that were in different niches. Like, you had the yoga conscious lifestyle magazine and the Buddhist conscious lifestyle magazine and da-da-da. And it was like, if you weren't like in that sect of people, if you weren't in that clique or tribe, like, you know, the content might have felt out of alignment for you. What we're trying to do is like show people and give them tools to live whatever life they want that's ideal for them. Because, you know, personally, like, I always was, when I got into this whole space, it was always very, you know, like, you know, feel good, Hallmark calendar type stuff, very nice and soft. And I was sitting over here, and I was like really into punk when I was in high school, and I love super obscure underground electronic music and techno. Like, I love, you know, all kinds of things that don't really jive with that
the typical yoga loving, vegan only, hippie type conscious person, right?
Yeah.
Like, that type of person definitely has a role and definitely probably reads this type of magazine without a doubt. But conscious lifestyle doesn't only have to be, you know, like, everyone can live a conscious lifestyle, and everyone should live a conscious lifestyle. Right. It doesn't have to only apply to hippies or to somebody who practices yoga. And right. Don't get me wrong, love yoga, surrounded by hippies. I mean, I get it, I you know what I mean? But like,
totally.
But fully jive with that. But I also don't fully jive with everything that is too. I don't jive with the fluffiness of it sometimes. I don't jive with like the, you know, like these articles that are literally just clickbait, and it's like you read it, you click on it, and it's like, oh yeah, you told me exactly like the most obvious things, just so that you can get an extra click and an extra like couple of, you know, penny or whatever in ad revenue or something. It's just like, oh, come on.
Totally. Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. I love yoga just as much as the next guy. I love all the Buddhist stuff, but it's like, that doesn't define who I am. It's just a piece. You know, and I think that it's like that for so many people out there, is that, you know, we're all so unique, and we each bring our own gifts and talents to the world. And it's important to honor that, and not like, you know, try and fit ourselves into these boxes, and really just be ourselves. And that's, you know, that's enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing too, is like, you know, let's challenge people a little bit with this content. You know, let's not everybody's like always spoon feeding stuff and trying to make it simple, and simple is good, but, you know, let's also challenge each other a little bit. Like, let's challenge you to grow. I mean, you know, Billy from the event's a perfect example to give him a shout out. You know, life happens outside your comfort zone. If you're only in that comfort zone all the time, like, you're not really going to be growing as much as you could be. So let's push you a little bit. Let's challenge things, you know?
Absolutely. And for those who are looking for Billy Courage Crusade, we'll put the link in the description as well. But so tell me, what is a recent challenge that you've taken on? You know, tell me what you are kind of diving into in terms of the unknown, or what are you know, maybe it's part of your morning routine that you're trying to do a little bit more meditation or something. What is there a challenge that you feel that you're kind of I don't want to say struggling through, but just kind of going through right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, well, you know, to bring it to like a really practical business level, I mean, maybe we can explore the mind-body part too in a little bit, but like, you know, what I see immediately in front of me is like, you know, here we are, we have this, you know, awesome burgeoning conscious business, and now we're scaling it up. You know, we're setting big goals for ourselves. We want to have 1 million people coming to our website every month, you know, within the next year. And that and we also want to be the #1 app, you know, on the iTunes store in our section, and it would be great to be the #1 magazine as well. So, you know, those are big goals, and it's like, they may sound like, oh, these are business strategic goals, but there's so much more to it than that. Yes, there's one part of it that's very, technical, and there's different things we have to have in place, but it's also challenging on an internal level too, right? Like it brings up all kinds of issues, like, can you do this? So you want to play at that level, huh? Do you think you have what it takes? And it's like, so you come up against your inner edges, and these goals are really just what calls you to move forward in a big way. And so that's definitely one of my challenges now, is like setting these really big goals and then figuring out how we're going to do it, and also doing it. We haven't talked about this as much yet, but one of the things that I like to say discovered, because everything's out there and I just brought it together in a unique way, but I discovered these principles of flow, and it's a way of living that you don't really get out there and necessarily need to struggle and put in insane hours, that you really kind of let go and instead use your intuition to hone you into what you should be doing, so that life becomes more effortless and you still get the results, and even better results than you do when you just try and force it. So it's also interesting for me to just continually apply those in my life, and when going for these big business goals, which if you listen to all the mainstream guys and all the big gurus out there, they're going to tell you got to hustle and you got to do this and you got to do that. And it's like, okay, how about if we do this and we do it in a way where you don't do that, do all these like,
where you don't give up your actual conscious lifestyle either.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Like, how can we do this in alignment? How can we do this, and maintain balance? How can we do this and have it be totally fun and enlivening the whole time, And so I really want to make, at the end of this, I want to make like a case study of it, right? Like, this is how we built massively successful businesses, just by following the flow and not doing all the common things that we're told to do. Those have their place for sure, but it's about really doing it in an aware, conscious, even spiritually grounded way, I would say.
Absolutely.
So that's my challenge. That's my challenge, is right, to do all.
No kidding. Thank you for taking on such an epic challenge. I feel the same way. I mean, there's so many challenges that I'm facing on a business level at all times, right? Like, I even mentioned one of them right off the top of this podcast. Launch superheroacademy.net. I've never done this. It's an online school. I've always wanted to make an alternative school because I thought my fucking school sucked. And I was just like, damn, we need to like really have better education. Now, I know 100 and other business, salesy type, landing page type people who are doing that kind of stuff. And I've seen them have, complete failures, and I've seen them have amazing success. But I feel like, nobody was really doing it for everyday superheroes. Nobody was just like truthfully going to do it in the way that I was going to do it, and kind of put out some free education and talk about social entrepreneurship very specifically, and talk about like really taking on massive social problems as well. And for me, I resonate with that. I resonate with the fact that it's like, it's super hard to find a way to kind of bring people on a team and make sure that they're financially compensated for such. It's super hard to find a way to scale and get more people to pay attention to something like this, compared to like, Kanye West jumping up on stage and, ruining some Oscar moment or whatever, right? Like, it's hard. We're competing with massive mega organizations who have mega amounts of money, and find ways to get on your Facebook feeds all the time, and we don't even realize that they're advertising to us, and they are. And we're getting we're just getting so much junk information and fighting that tide, all the while literally maintaining a conscious lifestyle, trying to like work out, even find the time to shave, which obviously I didn't find. Doing whatever it is, like eating right. It's tough. It's really, really, really tough. And it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. And anybody who thinks it is, and everybody who thinks that, this is like the easiest lifestyle, and you can work from home and all that stuff. Yes, there are awesome things about being an entrepreneur, and I would not back out from any of that, but it's still a challenge. And I think I really believe that entrepreneurs deserve more of superhero status, because entrepreneurs are really the ones that are taking risks for today so that they can kind of like live a better life tomorrow, and that they can create opportunity for other people around them. Because at the end of the day, no entrepreneur is an island either, right? None of this is going to happen completely on your own. It's half of this is about relationships, half of this is about maintaining some version of balance, and being able to delegate and outsource and pull all the right pieces together. And it seems like you've been able to do that. But do you have like a tip, or like, no, you know what? I'm going to ask you this first. What does like a conscious life look like for your particular morning? I think that a lot of people who start their morning off right and have a little bit of a routine on that front, or other routines throughout the day, like what are some tips that you are using to stay efficient, to stay conscious, to stay balanced, and to kind of maintain this conscious lifestyle?
Yeah, okay, that's great. I can definitely give you some great stuff here. I'll share one of the principles of flow, which is awesome, powerful decision-making tool that always helps you align with the path of least resistance and leads you towards your highest success, fulfillment, and growth in any moment.
Wow, you've said that before.
Awesome. I've thought about that, and I live it, so I know how true it is.
That's awesome. I believe it.
Yeah, so I'll share that. But just to give you a little insight into my morning routine, usually, I will wake up, and as soon as I start to wake up, I just have kind of trained myself to really implant intentions, like in that state before I'm fully awake and while I'm still kind of half asleep, because you really have a lot of access to your subconscious mind there, and it's a really powerful point in your day to make an intention or set an affirmation or something that just kind of flavors what you're about to embark on. And so I go
with gratitude. Like this morning, what I try and do now is like turn on my back, like no matter what awkward position I was sleeping in, I wake up, I turn on my back, and I put my hand on my heart, and I try and like say 3 things that I'm grateful for. It's almost like the 5-minute journal, but like sometimes I just don't feel like I want to pick up the physical journal. I just kind of do it in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just kind of it just permeates your whole day and your whole consciousness. So it's beautiful. And I do that, and then I get up and I go into the kitchen. I make superfoods water, superfood blend water with all kinds of crazy herbs from all over the place. And
sweet.
Yeah, and that's really a good way to cleanse a little bit in the morning and get that foundational nutrition. Then take a shower, do a cold shower, hot and cold shower.
Oh, you're doing that? Seriously?
Well,
that's a California thing, because if you did this in Montreal, boy, I've done like some cold showers here and there, like in my past, and recently here and there I try and like end my shower a little bit colder, or like kind of stay in a cold shower at the end for like 10 seconds to come out and kind of jump out of there. But yeah, that's power to you.
That's more like what I do, is like a minute at the end or something.
It's still power though. That if you're doing a minute in a cold shower, if you're doing it even for 10 seconds, you're still doing way more than the average person is doing in the shower in terms of challenging themselves.
Totally, yeah. It's good, man. It gets you awake and feeling in your body. And then I've been doing this for a long time, probably 10 years now. I do, usually at least half an hour of yoga, just stretch my body out, get in alignment, feel connected. And then I'll meditate and, I'll do some visualization. And that kind of is the foundation for everything else I do in the day. If I do that, I feel super centered, in my power, grounded. If I don't do that, I'm still fine, but I just don't quite have that foundation that really makes me feel united. And then to share, the principle of flow that I basically let guide pretty much every single action I can. I can't say that I live this 100% because it can be tricky at times. But I try and do it at least 80 or 90% of the time. And that principle is follow your highest excitement and inspiration in every moment. And I use that to decide like what I do during the day and what I even down to like which email do I answer now, and do I answer emails now, or should I work on this website now, or should I write an article now, or should I do something with the coaching now? I use that to calibrate every decision, and especially when you start doing it intentionally and every day, within a couple weeks at most, you find that it takes on this momentum and your whole life begins to be in the flow. And then things just kind of present themselves to you as they need to be done. And you're always excited because you're calibrated to it. So that's basically how I decide how to go about my day and what to do. And sometimes it's like, go to the beach right now. If I was like playing by a more rigid schedule, I would think, no, this is work time. It's just like, I use that. And it's crazy because like, then I'll go to the beach, right? And then I'll meet somebody at the beach and they're an entrepreneur and they want to collaborate and they're aligned. And so, it always takes you to a place, no matter what, where you have some kind of experience that leads to more success, fulfillment, and growth, like every time. So it's proven itself to me over and over again. It's worked for my clients, it's worked for my mentors, and so I live that, and that's really the foundation of my day, the backbone of it, you know.
Wow. Yeah. So what does scheduling look like for you? I mean, like, you know, I try and live in flow, but right now, I'm doing better than I was like even a month ago, let's say, because I'm creating like gaps of like what I call fun time almost, or gaps where like so what happens is like I use a scheduler, Calendly. I love it. It's like the best thing that ever happened in my scheduling life. And what that does is allows people to schedule into my calendar. But what happens sometimes is that everyone picks the same day, and I can have like 4 calls back to back. So what I'm now doing is I'm like kind of staying on top of that. And when I send somebody my schedule, the second they like book something, and if there's like already 2 calls in a day, I try and like go and shut out the rest of the day. And I'm like, okay, the rest of the day I'm gonna have like open kind of workflow space where I'm going to do these calls or run this podcast or do whatever, but I'm going to try and leave like really more room for just the random stuff that comes, right? Because you never know what email comes in, or you never know what thing you want to get inspired to do or go and do, or where you want to go, or how you're feeling that day. I mean, it's hard to, you know, try and plan a week ahead and tell me what you're going to feel that day, you know, what the weather's going to be like outside. Like, you know, if it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day, you can go and sit outside like you're doing now. Or if it's like a really rainy, shitty day, and you plan to be outside and, you have to take a run at this time. Well, yeah, really? You know what I mean? Like, do you have to do it at that time? I feel like the more that you, and I was like a big proponent of this. It's like, you know, be meticulous and be so rigid. I was literally over scheduling and destroying my life, literally.
Yeah. Totally.
And I was completely destroying flow. So
yeah.
How does that look like for you?
You have to plan for flow. No, I'm just
dude, honestly, I've told my partner, I've told people that I have to plan or schedule fun all the time. And like, I'm literally like, I'm at this point where I'm literally doing that regularly, but it's a weird thing because like fun is also built into my day, but at the same time, like I never like, what I'm doing is kind of getting caught in the gray, and maybe I'll explain that. But what I mean by gray is like the best thing to do is to either work really hard or play really hard, in my opinion. Like you should be black or white, okay? And you should like really commit to something fully and not do it like kind of half, right? Like so if I'm like working, but then at the same time I'm like checking my newsfeed on Facebook and then watching like, I don't know, John Oliver on YouTube. Well, guess what? Like my attention is going to be split. My ability to get that job done is going to take significantly longer than it would have taken if I was focused. And I'm kind of in that gray state. And the exact opposite, like the exact same thing happens on the fun side where it's like, yes, I did, you know, today I was very much in the gray this morning and I really had an unproductive morning. I'd still got some stuff out. I mean, I released a podcast and wrote a whole bunch of stuff.
It's all relative. We're entrepreneurs.
For me, it was like an awful morning. For everyone else, it probably did just as much as anybody. But it was like, I still watched all these things, but I wasn't really fully playing either. So, you know, how do you balance that? Like, I would love to hear more about that flow state and how you're kind of not scheduling it, but like how you're actually making sure to structure your life so that you don't overplan and you don't fuck it up.
Yeah, no, I think you're. I mean, so what I'm hearing, just to reflect back to you, is like your highest excitement and inspiration is to make sure you have time every day to play and to be, you know, not super focused and work and have that space. So you're
only now though, because a month ago that was not the case. A month ago it was like, when can I find the time to like not be doing that so that I can get back to work?
Right.
Like there was moments and times where that is the case.
Exactly. And so now you're following your excitement and inspiration and scheduling that into your day, which is that's the correct move for you, because that is what you feel inspired to do now, right? And so you know, it is a challenge when you get when you start to become an entrepreneur and have maybe multiple projects and businesses, right? How do you stay in the flow with all that? And, you know, it really, I think it's super important. One of the principles that I've been playing around with a lot lately is balance. You have to have balance in everything you do. If you're only working all the time, you're going to burn out super quick. Your work quality is going to take a nosedive, you know, and if you're only playing all the time, you're not really going to be super effective, and you're going to be, you know, you're not going to be making huge progress towards your goals necessarily. I mean, you can, but it depends on what you do and all that. But as a general rule of thumb, like if you're playing all the time, if you're not really sitting down and being focused, like you're not going to make the same level of progress. So knowing that this principle of balance is there, right? We just need to be aware of that and make sure that we plan it into our days. And then you're naturally going to stay in the flow, because that is one of the principles of flow, is staying balanced. You know, if you're swinging too far, like a pendulum, too far to either side, you're out of balance and something's going to suffer. So if you know that, and you know, in your case, you're seeing that, and it's in your highest excitement, inspiration, you schedule that in and you make time, and you're solid. That's it.
You have to. And what I need to do now personally is I actually need to step away from the computer more. So like what I'll do is I'll have fun time, but then like my idea of fun is watching a documentary sometimes, and for other people it might be like depressing. For me, it's like I love learning. I'm fucking addicted to it. Like I say this all the time. I am super addicted to learning. I am addicted to the internet. I'm addicted to my computer. I'm addicted to learning. You know, you heard it here first, okay? But like sometimes I need to kind of like get out of that and be more in the physical. And that to me is where like Valhalla has played a little bit of a role in terms of balance as well, right? Like I can go out there and get my hands in the dirt and be outside a little bit, and it's pretty interesting and fun to do something like that. And you know, it's like one thing to talk about conscious lifestyle or sustainable lifestyle, if you will, but it's another to like go and like physically build it and make it happen and do it. And you know, I'm kind of finding more and more of an affinity for plants and gardening and stuff now. And it's just an interesting space. It's an interesting way of kind of creating that balance. I don't find like the best place for me for balance is like, okay, hands on the keyboard, hands in the dirt. That's where it's like for me. Yeah.
No, I totally hear you on that. And like, yeah, the more the pendulum swings in one direction, the more it has to swing in the other direction. So like, you know, this is to keep coming back. This has been like this huge theme from Archangel, is dancing, right? Like, I'll just stop what I'm doing at random points throughout the day and just dance and like, you know, get away from the computer, whatever, and just put on some music and dance, because that just like connects me to my body. I'm not really focused on any one thing. So I might even have my eyes closed half the time, which is polar opposite of being on the computer. I think what you're talking about is perfect, getting out into nature. That's what I like to do, actually. I'm in California, so I can go outside all day, every day. And like, I'll go out, and we have this huge, you know, lawn in front of our house. It's like overlooking the ocean. It's really a great space. And like, I'll just go out there and I will dance, and I'll just be out in nature, or maybe I'll go for a walk. On my ideal days, I usually go to the beach for about an hour and a half, and I'll take a huge long walk, and I'll just disconnect. Like, that's how I get out there, you know.
And it's not to say that when in those walks or in those dance that you might find your inspiration from that moment too. That you might find
your inspiration,
right? Like that's exactly where it happens.
Like like what I'll find is when I'm working really hard, like my brain will stop coming up with new ideas, new creative ideas, and like I will just have to go, I'll have to literally stop and do something else completely opposite, and then I'll have that insight, you know, maybe when I'm meditating, maybe when I'm in the shower. I made a post about this the other day. Like when I'm in the shower, I have like all these insane ideas and I never have anything to write them down with. It's like this conundrum, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's totally, that's the principle of balance, right? When you swing the pendulum in the opposite direction and you stop doing the work, like that's when it starts to feed you on another level and bring you that inspiration that ultimately allows you to do the work even better when you return to it, you know?
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. And I know what you mean by the shower thing too. I'm like, I literally cannot take a shower at this point without listening to some podcast at some point. Like I have like a ledge at the top of the shower that I put my phone in. And I always put like, you know, I'm dancing with the devil because you never know when it'd fall one day or something. Right, but it is pretty secure, I think. And I listen to podcasts, and then while listening to these podcasts, I get like a good idea or something, and then it's like, oh man. But you know, I want to kind of switch gears a little bit here, and this is Superhero Academy for a reason. This is Superhero Academy podcast for a reason. Who's your favorite superhero and why? Who's somebody that you really admire? Whether in person, whether a cartoon character or both, dead or alive, fictional or non-fictional, whatever. Who are people that you really draw inspiration from, and who would you say also lives the conscious lifestyle maybe the best? Like who's somebody that you model yourself after, and almost?
Well, I mean, that's pretty quick for me to know who that person is. I mean, I loved Ninja Turtles when I was a kid, but
Sweet.
I can't say that I really like looked up to them or anything, but there was my first mentor, John Ramos. He is absolutely the person who set the tone for what I experienced to be a truly conscious lifestyle, and also someone who was really inspiring because of the amount of things he had accomplished and done and the level of success he created for himself, and doing it totally by adhering as deeply as anybody I've ever known to like all these different principles of conscious living, right? He was like kind of like he was like the anti-business guy, but he was totally successful in business. And so awesome. So he was really my biggest inspiration, and he working with him just gave me this really awesome foundation and showed me that it doesn't have to be like everybody says it is. Like, it doesn't have to be like all the gurus say it is. It doesn't have to be like all these other it is. Like, I live this incredible life, and I get paid to travel around the world and speak and work with some of the world's most successful people and mentor them spiritually, which some people will tell you can't do and can't get paid for, and like make incredible amounts of money and give his time freely to kids that are struggling with poverty and all kinds of stuff. And so he just showed me that really anything was possible, that it's up to me how I want to create my life, and that as long as I get in alignment with my purpose and honor who I am and do the inner work, that whatever I want is out there waiting for me. And so that he was definitely one of my biggest inspirations. And then I've had a bunch of more teachers that came into my life that were super mystical and intense and like put me through all kinds of advanced like training, and I really look up to them as well. But there was just something about John that was so like giving and loving, and really just he was my first real superhero in life, for sure.
Wow, that's awesome. I love that. I love when people pick real people too, like people who are like in their lives. I love, like, I would, people, I've probably said this before on the podcast, but I love Batman, I love James Bond, because they're like everyday superheroes that have, they don't really have real superpowers. They're just kind of everyday people, technically, even though they're fictitious. I always thought that was cool, but I love when people pick real people, because that's what's like really truthfully life-changing, is that when you're meeting somebody or talking to somebody regularly in that way, that's kind of helps change your mentality. And I'm pretty sure I know your answer on this, but I'd love to hear more about this. Myself being a coach, yourself being a coach, for these kind of different things, how important is it to have a mentor? How important is it to have a coach? And do you have a coach now? Like, do you continue to have mentors or coaches always guiding your path and finding a way forward? Because I know for me, my coach Phil Droulet, who's amazingly awesome person, individual, he's got the will. He's a true superhero without a doubt. He's got such iron will. He lives the conscious lifestyle better than anybody I know personally, and he kills it. But so for me, I know it's super, super important. And people always ask me like, "Oh, you're a coach, but like, do you have a coach?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I totally do, and I invest very heavily in this, and it's not cheap or anything either. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. So here's my answer, and the short answer is: do you need it to have a coach to be successful and get what you want? No. Yeah. You can absolutely do anything that you set your heart and mind to doing. If you're resourceful, if you're committed, if you are willing to do whatever it takes, you don't need a coach. But that can be, and in 95% of the cases, that is the long, hard road filled with struggle and suffering and pain and wasted money and time. And maybe you'll be
lots of mistakes and the whole shitty journey of solopreneurship that will be very tough, without a doubt. Yeah,
a coach basically allows you to shorten the gap between where you are and where you want to be exponentially. Like, if you work with a coach, you can like get it right on your first try. You know what I mean? And knock it out of the park. You can literally cut the struggle and suffering to like maybe a quarter or even less of what it was going to be. You save yourself so much time and energy, and money and everything, and it just totally accelerates your path and your whatever you're trying to accomplish. Like, a coach is like that super wise, insightful person that knows exactly where you're at and has been there before, or has some principles or tools that they can help you navigate where you're at, so that you literally just go for it, and the success is pretty much inevitable. So is coaching essential? No. But then again, like, what's important to you? You know, like, are you?
It's not essential to win the Olympics either. But guess what? To win the Olympics, generally you need a coach. You know what I mean? Like, generally you need somebody there to keep you accountable, to make you perform, to keep you on track, to make sure that you're going to do those things that you said you were going to do, and sometimes even to outperform your coach. I mean, like, think about Plato and Socrates, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's arguable who was more profoundly transformational than the other. I think they were both awesome, and one kind of birthed the other in a way. But at the end of the day, like, that's an amazing relationship, an amazing example of how, you know, mentorship or coaching, if you want to call it that, or consulting, or whatever the hell you want to call it, okay? That is super, super, super transformational, and it's worth every dollar that you will ever put into it, or every piece of time or moment that you'll ever put into it. And it normally allows you to also outperform your coaches in a weird way. So it's almost like, you know, I hired Phil because I was going to the space of being, number one, a coach and consultant, which he had been doing. Number two, doing some of these online launches. And doing these online launches in a way that, you know, was allowing me to build this, you know, this online school with this belt system and stuff, Superhero Academy. And all of that, everything that he was able to, like, answer, even if it was just like a simple question, and I would have found the answer for sure anyway, he was able to, like, tell me it in a second and help me make that decision in a heartbeat. Or I'd be like, oh, I have option A and option B. He's like, well, which one do you really want to do? I'm like, option A. He's like, well, why aren't you doing option A then? Like, why are you even considering option B?
Google will never tell you that.
No, of course not. I can't Google option A or option B. It's like, and I can Google totally. And then, you know, you'll read like a whole bunch of conflicting shit online, if anything. But it's like, this person was just like, no, just go with your heart or trust your gut. And like, sometimes he's just telling me or asking me questions, you know, that I already know the answer to, or it's not about just what they're teaching you. It's also about the accountability of that moment. But what was amazing is that in my first online launch, I've got like probably more people than he ever came close to having in his first online launch. And it's because I was able to learn from somebody who had already done it, right? It's like, if you want to be successful in something, the best way to be successful is to go and learn from the people who have already been successful in that thing. Okay. Right. Now, chances are that everyone out there is going, no, but my idea is unique. Sure. Okay. It is unique. I'm sure it is. But at the same time, there's other people who have had components of what you're doing to some degree that you can learn from, and you should. You definitely should invest in yourself and learn from these people.
Yeah. You hit on a really interesting point. And this is something that I've always played with, and that there are like laws of business, and there are laws of marketing, and there are laws in place that like govern this stuff. So if I'll go ahead and say, I mean, like, they are as real as like the law of gravity. You know, there's just a fundamental.
Yeah, I would say so.
There's like a fundamental equation that like you have to play by to be able to be successful. And if you're going to go into business as an entrepreneur, there's certain things you need to know. And so, you know, people, you can still have your unique idea. That's the whole point. But like, you know, the way you bring it to the world, you have to utilize all these different resources and methodologies and stuff like that are out there. And even the people that try and pretend like that they don't do those, because they're not aware of them or whatever, and they're still successful, if you like deconstruct what they do, you find the laws and the principles right there operating just like they were in any other successful business where people were aware of them. And so, you know, if you know, as a business and marketing coach as well, I mean, I don't define myself by that, but it's definitely something I help people do. Like, to be able to have someone that knows those things and can just cut your time down infinitely and help you see the best way to do things is just priceless, you know?
Absolutely. It saves me countless amounts of money. It has brought me so much opportunity time and time again.
And I just want to say that, like, we did our taxes right just now for the last year, so I looked at how much money I spent, you know, and I mean, this is small compared to a lot of businesses, but I mean, I think we spent $5,000 to $7,000 needlessly last year on things that we if I had known better at the beginning, like, I would have never done it. You know what I mean? And so I paid to learn that lesson. But like, if you're working with a coach, you know, right away, you're not going to make that mistake.
Guaranteed. And it's not to say that you're not going to make mistakes. You will, even if you have a coach. But you might fail forward much better, or you might avoid some bigger mistakes that will cost you a lot of time and money.
Totally.
Again, on the superhero theme, so we now know who your superhero is, but what's your kryptonite? What's the thing that's like that thing that's just like, it's still like the thing that you have to fight off the most, or it's like your arch nemesis, More so than like, I mean, normally everyone's answer is like, okay, it's me. It's like, it's my own mind, my own psyche, my fears, whatever. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what do you think is the number one thing that stands in your way at times in your own life?
Yeah, there's 3 things actually that I can think of right off the bat, and I'll just name them here so I don't forget them, like explaining each one.
Sure.
But one of them is, you know, how I take care of myself, like what I put in my body, my space, you know, if I have that connection to nature that I need. 2 is if I let myself get too strategic, too analytical, and overthink things. And then the 3rd one is that this is not something that I really struggle with that much anymore, but I still get echoes of it from time to time, you know, and that is I struggled with self-doubt for a lot of my life, you know. And so I've done so much work, so much of my journey has been about healing that and dealing with that and loving that part of myself and overcoming it. But from time to time, like, especially if I let myself get out of balance in the first 2 areas, I notice that like those echoes will come up, and those can kill all forward progress if you're not careful. You know, I have a myriad of ways to deal with them, and they're a total non-issue for me now. But for a long time, they really were, and it's just something that I have to constantly be aware of and just make sure that I'm not letting myself get too out of balance and swing back in that direction. The first one is, particularly for me, I'm really just a highly sensitive person, which I'm learning more and more throughout my life, and I have to eat impeccably well. Okay. I have to take care of my body. I'm not like other people where I can, like, when I'm traveling, like, I can just eat like crap for a week and be okay. Like, my performance and my mental and spiritual, emotional, physical everything starts to go downhill if I let that slide. So I have to just be really aware of that and make sure I'm getting outside and getting sun and, like, getting some fresh air. That's really important. And then also, too, I have a really fast mind, and so do you, Mark. And that's why
that's why we get along, without a doubt.
we're just like so enthralled by life, and just our minds are just processing things so fast and integrating things so fast, and it's awesome, and it's such an asset. But it's also, you know, kryptonite, because I can just get totally lost in that, lost in, like, trying to learn new things and consume new content instead of putting into practice and getting better at the things that are really essential, the fundamentals, you know. And also, too, I can let myself get out of balance in terms of the principles of flow, right? Like, I'm trying to overthink things. I'm trying to figure things out. I'm not relying on my, you know, intuition and my emotional calibration as much, my emotional intelligence. And so
sometimes we're getting too high up into the mind and not so much into the heart, kind of thing.
Exactly. So, yeah. So as long as I keep those 2 things centered, like, I'm fine. Everything's awesome. But if I let those 2 things get really out of balance, then I start, you know, playing mind tricks on myself and, like, getting into that, like, letting that self-doubt, those echoes of self-doubt kind of come back to the surface. And so, you know, it's really, that's kind of like my sign that I've gotten too far out of balance. That's how I know now. And I make sure, and I go and address those 2 things, and I do any inner healing work if I need to, and then I'm back on point.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit on something very powerful there, which is that often the number one thing that allows us to succeed is sometimes the thing that also is our kryptonite, right? Like, it's just like sometimes the number one thing that is like the fast mind is what allows me to have this opportunity, in my opinion, or at least partially I have this opportunity. And then the other side of it is like having the heart to actually, you know, the courage to actually jump into it. But the other element of that is also the side of like, well, sometimes that fast mind really takes over and takes control, and it just goes way too far. I almost end up in like a downward spiral of ADD where I'm like, no, there's so much going on, there's so much I have to do, and I get so. And then what happened for me, I don't know about you, and I'm sure it applies to you. I get overwhelmed. The number one thing that I feel on a consistent basis on a sensitive side of things, I guess, is overwhelmed. There's so much going on. There's so many projects. Valhalla is so complex. Superhero Academy, this, that. I'm doing SEO. I have this client here, that client there, this person. I coach over like 5-6 people or whatever. Like, I have my coach who has to speak to, a girlfriend, this, that, the other. Like, oh man, it's just like there's so much happening at times. And the only thing that it will ever allow me to ground myself is like, get back to the breath. Just chill out. take it one at a time, one little simple step, one little thing this way, that way, and you just make it happen and you find the way, right? And that's what we need to kind of, people like you and I for sure just need to kind of sit there with that and let that kind of stuff happen. So we need to flow, and I think that's a really powerful message for anybody to hear. It's just like sometimes you gotta let go, sometimes you gotta like let it just flow, and if you're getting overwhelmed or if you don't know the road, like sometimes the easiest way is not to fight through it, it's to like surrender to it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I hear you on that, man. It's easy, especially as an entrepreneur, to like get caught up in the details, and it's really important.
Endless lists.
Yeah, it's endless. It's exactly like you can. There's always something more you can be doing. So it's actually a trap. I mean, totally. You have to like be aware of it and account for it and know that you're getting sucked into it. You know, when you can see that pattern happening, you can decide whether or not you're going to participate in it. But if you are just lost in it and it's totally overwhelming you, like it's going to be really hard for you to pull yourself out. And that's another reason why a coach is great, because they'll see your patterns before you're even aware of them. You know?
Yeah, and they're outside of it, right? They're an outside influence.
Yeah.
And they're seeing it from a different perspective. You know, sometimes a partner is good for that too, right? Like, you know, you have a lover who sees you from the outside. It's like, hey, whoa, you're stressed out. You're like, your mind's going a mile a minute. Just chill out. We'll figure this out. Everything's going to be okay. It's like, sometimes that's all we need to hear. That's all that needs to happen for this to kind of play out the way it needs to, right?
Oh,
so, you know, we're kind of, I guess, to the end of this podcast. Where can people go and learn more about the conscious lifestyle? Let's remind people about where they can find this magazine.
Yeah. So Conscious Lifestyle Magazine, we're one of the top-ranked iTunes apps right now, so you can go find us on the iTunes store. Just search Conscious Lifestyle Magazine on the App Store, and you will find us. You can get us on the iPad, iPhone, iPod, if you're still using those. Also on the Google Play Store, you can get our app there as well. We have a website, consciouslifestylemag.com. We have a bunch of awesome free content on there. It's really profound and deep, just like the magazine. If I want to toot my own horn there for a minute. And you can also sign up too. We can give you a sneak peek for the magazine there. We have like a free trial, so you can try it out if you'd like. This is for the premium subscription version of the magazine. But there's awesome free content on the website. We really try and give away as much as we can because we know that this information is just needed. And so, yeah, so check it out, and hope you find something you like.
Yeah, you will. You will. For everyone who's listening, all these links are going to be in the description for sure. And you will find something there. I'm telling you, I got it. I was blown away. I was literally on the bus ride into town, and I received this, and like the entire bus ride I was consumed by this magazine, and then kind of beyond that into my day. I actually used it. I used it for flow state. I used it like later that day to be like, let me sit down and chill. Let me read this.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, and don't forget to rate and leave a comment. Until next time, be the hero you've always dreamed of being.